Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at Genesis Communications Network. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 712-770-9418. Provided by Global Star. Thank you so much, Todd Waite at Global Star. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Rick.
Oh, just outside Balfour. Yeah, you wind up the pitch. Oh! I've had a long week, Vincent. Don't mess with me. I just need more humor in my life. That's what I'm needing now, to laugh at everything.
How about a new term? I was talking with Kurt Wilson yesterday afternoon. And Kurt Wilson is the armchair survivalist. He's a USA Prepares instructor. And, we were talking about how ethics and morals have changed depending on, what's happening at the moment. And together we came up with this term. He put half of it together. I put the other half together. And it's called situational morality or situational ethics. So people agree to do things, and then I don't want to do it anymore. Okay? So the other party, the two parties in an agreement, and the other party is left holding the bag because one party says, I don't feel like doing it anymore. Let me give an example. So, and this is after Kurt Wilson and I talked about this term, situational morality or situational ethics. So we have some extra hay available here at the farm, and we've decided that we're going to sell some of our hay because selling cows isn't working so well. So we decided to sell some hay, and a guy called up, and he needs hay really, really badly. Got to have it. His cows are starving. So the field, it's a 100-mile round trip for us to go get this hay and bring it to him, or get it for him. The field is really, really muddy. It was this was on Tuesday. The agreement was made, and today, Thursday at noon, was going to be the delivery. Well, so yesterday we worked on our trailer. We have a 26-foot gooseneck trailer. It's a really heavy trailer. Took the tires off, balanced them, greased the wheel bearings, spent a half a day working on it. Okay, guy calls this morning and says, never mind, I found some hay. Forget it. So there was an agreement that he would buy the hay. We are the lowest price in a 100-mile radius for the best hay. And this guy just decides he got it someplace else. Forget it. An agreement was made. What I'm saying is that is situational morality, situational ethics. So what do we do in a situation like that? What do we do when a guy runs us ragged because we do everything we can to meet our obligation, and he reneges? What do we do? We'll never do it.
Yeah, listen to this.
We'll never do.
When Ducky Mallard was asked that, he turned as he was walking out the door and he said, quote, "An ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't." Now, the difference between ethics and morals is the distinction between choice. And morality is walking your talk. And a lot of people are no longer doing that because nobody does it. However, that's one of the reasons why I have chosen you as my friend, because you walk your talk. And even when somebody does not walk their talk, you will, even if it means you're lost. And what you're really doing is showing people a possible better way of being. And because at some point, somebody's going to do that to him, and he's going to remember you and how he did it to you. Now, this is the constructs of children and adults, where adults are more experienced than children are. Children don't know any different, and that's why being an adult is a responsibility for teaching the children how to walk their talk, and by example. And what you're doing is why your son is as solid as he is, and your family is the family that you enjoy. I'll bet that man is not a very happy man, ultimately.
That's a very good point, and I have a feeling you're absolutely right about that guy, because he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know
that's
that
right. But
a
what
commitment.
you're doing, you're showing him another way of being. It does not mean he's going to embrace it any more than Christianity over Muslim. But I'll tell you what, when I look out into the universe, I see the Muslims practicing their religion way better than what I see Christians doing. Now, Christianity is a solid way of being, but I don't see people acting like Christians. They say they are, and that's the difference, again, between ethics and morals. Walking your talk, not making judgment on another, including you being upset at that man for being limited. What he did is his choice, just like yours is. I don't care to do business with you anymore. And at some point, he may or not really want your forgiveness. You don't know. What you do know is you have to look yourself in the mirror. And once you get that part, that's what it's truly all about. You're not trying to do it for money. You're not trying to do it for survival. You're trying to do it so that you respect yourself.
Well, we're probably 20% lower than the next closest guy, so we're the lowest in price.
Even if you're hay,
no, I know that.
Hay as opposed to grass hay. You understand where I'm going with that? If alfalfa, it was pure alfalfa, it was like premium grade, pure alfalfa. Doesn't matter what your price part was. It was a verbal contract was going, and usually you spit in your hand, and it seals the deal. The old school.
We don't spit. We don't spit in our hands anymore. We don't even shake hands anymore.
And you know what? I'd like to talk to you about that, because this is another right in front of our face, 9/11. Did it happen? I don't know. Did the plane actually hit that tower, or was it a hologram? I don't know. I can tell you that Building 7 was a demolition. You can say it. So there's no question that all part of it is. And the bottom line is, in terms of woohoo, is anything you could possibly imagine on why they did that is probably true, and even more. You'll notice, for example, that now hospitals are no longer hospitals, they're internment camps. You'll notice there is an excuse to get rid of paper money so that you don't touch things that other people touch. You'll notice that there's no longer a debt with China, or China owns 50% of the West Coast. You'll notice that even if they did, we're not going to pay them, because you'll notice, it just goes down the line. And what we're talking about is a common cold. And the amount of deaths that have died from a common cold is way more than the Wuhan virus. So why is the CDC and the World Health Organization slamming the way they are with disinformation? And that's the question I'd start to ask everybody. It doesn't matter whether it's real or not. Why are they doing disinformation? And that's
like
where you
President Trump. Like President Trump saying this isn't
Trump and Clinton and Bernie Sanders and they're all criminals. Bernie Sanders isn't that great a person. Neither is Clinton, neither is Biden. All of them need to be put in jail probably, including Trump.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is the president is saying that it's not so bad. Rush Limbaugh said it's no worse than the common cold. And we're talking about the coronavirus, which our term here at USA Prepares is corona panic. Rick, it is sweeping the globe so quickly that in Australia,
to cause a response of giving up your civil rights for safety. And like Benjamin Franklin said, when you do that, you lose both. And bottom line is, I'm not worried about it. The Wuhan virus, okay, everybody listen carefully. The Wuhan virus is about your mouth and your thyroid. It is in the upper respiratory area before it goes down into the lung. Okay. That means that if you do echinacea and gustus folia, just echinacea sides cause the turgor in your synovial fluids to bead, and it sets up electrostatic fields in your mouth. That's what the numbness is about. And what happens next is virus can't set up because of the electrostatic fields. It isolates and localizes the infection, and it's your body that goes in and drills it. And oh, guess what? You probably already had a boo-boo virus, and it was in and out and gone. Just like that. Oh, older people. Oh, quick. Masks. It isn't about masks. It's a fact that if you start to look at your fingers, just carry an ultraviolet light that you can shine on your mouth and your hands and take a look at what glows. So there's your virus. There's your bacteria. That's what's happening. And when you go to Walmart, oh, and guess what? Walmarts and Harbor Freight are messed up big time right now. Have you noticed their shelves? Why? Well, this causes a pandemic, and we've got a virus now, immunization. Let's do that next. And I'm going to guess that that's going to be even worse. They needed a body count to set up world fear. Fear is the first enemy of man, and we've been here every year, and what they're trying to do is put legs on this like they did 9/11. And yes, you should be clean and consider yourself, but not to panic. This isn't real. What's real is your imagination and fear and your response. That's real. And morals and ethics, walk your talk. If you're going to go, at least you can go with dignity. And I refuse to mess with this. I have been posting it every day on Sustainable Lifeboat, and then I started seeing a pattern. And if you'll notice, all the pretty good people that I find, with now disinformation and so on, William Mount, some of these others, they're all saying it's about money, it's about debt, it's about control. It's not about the virus. It's about your fear of the virus and how the media.
Class Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. RichardAllenMiller.com, RichardAlanMiller.com. Rick, we talked about early in the corona panic environment, we talked about the supply chain. And I just want to read something to you. I'm at rockauto.com. Rock Auto is one of the largest, if not the largest, distributor of auto parts on the internet in the United States of America. They have pretty much every possible auto product you can possibly need. Well, last night we were looking at oil changing drain plugs. So let's say you change the oil, you unscrew this drain plug and it has a washer and sometimes they get damaged. So if you bring your vehicle to Walmart and they use an impact gun on your oil drain pan, they can destroy it. so you might need a new one. Or the washers that are used sometimes get damaged and you need a new washer. Well, there are 8 choices at Rock Auto for the Mercedes-Benz 2000 model V8. It's the same as the V6. It's for a whole bunch of years. It's probably the same drain plug that's used in Toyotas and Camrys. It's metric. They have 8 offerings. 5 out of the 8 are out of stock right now. So if you wanted to order one, you could not. It says, quote, out of stock, notify me when available, end quote, for 5 of the 8. What I'm saying is we talked about this. We said this was going to happen. It's happening right now. Oil drain plugs. Why? Because they come from the communist Chinese. That's why. And Apple. Apple has Homo Tim Cook. I mentioned this yesterday. The CEO of Apple bet the farm, bet Apple on China. His employees said, no, we need to diversify. We can't have just the Chinese be our sole manufacturer of the parts for Apple. Now it is reported that if you have a broken phone and you need a major part for your broken phone, an Apple phone, you may not be able to get it fixed for a couple of weeks because of the parts inavailability. Apple doesn't have all the parts that they need to fix the phones. So like if you break the screen, you might not be able to get your phone fixed for a few weeks, if at all.
Yeah.
So now what's happening is people are saying, oh, geez.
I watched...
people now are saying, oh, gee, I'll buy a new phone if I can get one. Go ahead.
Okay. I watched a thing called TikTok. It's a thing for kids where they text each other. You know, it's a Gen X thing. And not a millennial, more it's Gen X, the younger kids. And there were a whole series of them, of kids that were in China, Caucasian, that were stuck in China and having to stay at home and are bored. And it was interesting to get their perspective, not just one person, not 5 people. I looked at more than 200 different posts on TikTok just to get a sense of what's really going on and the general overlay. And all I saw was critical mass and temporary insanity, just like it ever was. You know, kids starting to go to critical mass, that means they're menstruating, and then they go crazy, and sexually. And I'm watching how the universe is using this situation as a spin for alternative purposes. And I've had enough. And if somebody came to my door wanting my rifle, not only will I not give it up, I might shoot them for even dreaming of
well,
thinking,
Rick,
I don't care what they do to me. I'm old enough. I'm prepared to set an example of what a young Gen X might expect when he approaches a baby boomer. And I want everybody to understand that I don't care anymore. I've lived a good life. I've done everything I need. I don't care anymore. It's time I start walking my talk. And how did Yoda put it? My gun you may have. After I give you my bullets, I will. And you know what? This is a bunch of horseshit. And I'm calling it out. I'm calling out the World Health Organization. And I'm saying, why are you doing this? Your incompetence is... I'm enough of an intellect.
Hold that thought. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, I just want to let you know we have a delay. Right now it's 1,064 milliseconds, so just over a second. It was 2 seconds before the break, and so I reconnected. We're down to just a little over a second. So I just want to let you know there is a delay between you and me. So if we step on each other, that's what it's about.
I apologize too for ranting this morning. I've had enough of everybody. You know, this whole thing, even just a minute ago, was on the woohoo. And why? Because it sells advertising. People are afraid.
You
What happened
mentioned,
to Charles Kowalt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned,
yeah, you got it. What happened to Charles Kowalt concept?
You mentioned handing over your gun when they come to get it, and it's bullets first. Well, I read there's somewhere on the internet. I don't even know if I could find it again. But there's a protocol that you're supposed to use. So for example, let's say you're at a dinner, and someone says to you, "Could you please pass me a fork?" Well, you don't pass it by the tines. You don't hold it by the tines. There's a protocol. You pass it by the handle. Okay, and you don't touch the eating surface when you pass the fork. And there's a protocol that's on the internet somewhere that says there's a protocol for handing over your gun to the authorities. And the safe way to do that is you hand them the barrel first, but you hold the gun, you hold it by the trigger. That's the protocol. So I just want to make sure that, in case you want to look that up, class, if you ever have to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to say something too. My father would have taken my pistol away from me if I had called it a gun. Mm-hmm. FYI, You have a pistol, a revolver, a rifle, and a shotgun.
Yeah,
and,
that's absolutely correct.
My father taught me how to use a rifle when I was 12 years old. I killed my first deer when I was 12. And I became a hunter, like my dad. I don't hunt anymore. There's reasons. But, you call it by its correct name. And it isn't a gun. It's a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol, or a revolver.
No, I was using that term to encompass all rifle,
and I wasn't
pistol,
calling
shotgun.
you on it. I'm saying the slang has moved that whole thing into a whole different kind of a genre.
You're right, and we call children kids too, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And kids are baby goats. You're absolutely right. Well, there is a protocol, and you can find it on the internet, class. So if you want to, if you feel inclined to turn over your rifle, pistol, revolver, or shotgun, the article that I read said that you hand it over, you hold on to the trigger, and you hand the barrel over to the other person. So you might want to research that for yourself. Of course, this is tongue in cheek, class. Rick, I was just talking with our son. We have
trying to incite riots, aren't you? By wearing a
well. So here's
a hoodie.
Here's
by wearing a hoodie. Yeah.
Here's an interesting tidbit. Back to the supply chain. So we decided that we have some wheels that we need to replace on a trailer. Wheels, steel wheels, very heavy wheels on this particular trailer. And this is, it's not like it's it's an American trailer. There are no replacement wheels to be had. The largest tire and wheel company, the largest distributor, has none available. There's none in stock, and they don't know when they can get them. Wheels. I'm talking about wheels. I'm not talking about rocket science here. I'm talking about a common wheel for a trailer. Nowhere are they in stock in this country. That is the supply chain problem that we were talking about. Now, 6 weeks ago, did I think I thought we had pretty much everything that we needed for survival? Yeah, we can get by with the wheels. They're slightly bent. I sure would like them to be straight, but I can't get them.
Wobble.
That's exactly right. We put them on the balancer last night, and we're checking them, and they're about 1/8 of an inch. They wobble about 1/8 of an inch. Now, when you fully load that trailer, it doesn't feel so bad. But the empty trailer, it almost jumps around on the road. So I'm just telling you that when we talked about the supply chain, that is what we're talking about. And in Australia, we're talking about, our term for this is the corona panic. In Australia, right now, and this is European news, quote, hysterical pet owners fearing coronavirus asking vets to euthanize their dogs. What is happening is people now are so afraid of dying of the coronavirus that they want their vet to kill a family member, their dog. That's happening right now.
If they can get
Now,
you to do
all
that,
you have to do is keep your animal home.
yeah,
Keep your
if they
animal
can
home.
get you to do that, what do they want you to do after that?
Right. Right. So this thing is a moving target. People are some people are paying attention. Now, my belief is that the coronavirus is absolutely real. And in Washington State at the nursing home, they put sheets up while they loaded this dead patient, or this dead resident of the nursing home into a vehicle to go on to the crematorium, I guess, or burial. They held up sheets so there could be no cameras now or pictures. Now, why would they do that? We've all seen, images of dead on television, right? We've been to funerals, so it's nothing new. Well, it seems to me that this must be way different. This coronavirus has struck fear in the minds of a lot of political types, movers and shakers, the kind of people that tell us what to do. It has struck fear.
It is, and using
I think it's
for
real.
agendas.
Well, okay, I think it's real. I believe it's absolutely real. And yes, they never let a crisis go to waste, right? Well, I believe that the reason is that the people who die, there's a fork in the coronavirus. There's like two of them. One of them, you get kind of sick and it's miserable and you don't want to go to work.
I have a different
and
direction. Why was that made into a weapon in the first place?
Okay, well, let's put that aside for just a second.
That's Eisenhower, right on down to today. Why would they weaponize something like that in the first place? With the possibility of it possibly becoming what they're suggesting it is. Now, anyone that would do that, in my opinion, is not a human being.
Well, of course not. Of course not, because when we went to grammar school, we were told not to punch girls. We were told to be polite. We were told to speak when spoken to. We were told not to destroy things, not to litter, not to set fires. Remember Smokey the Bear?
All of those things, because
right.
We ask not to. You see, you have a choice. And that's what made us God's favorite, is this diversity. But I am watching the earth in front of me being terraformed for something else. Now you tell me what's going on, and I say back to you, your imagination is what's real. And because of that, it is the discipline necessary of being responsible for the thoughts you choose to entertain. There it is.
Well, it seems that to me, from everything that I've read and all the sources that we have here at USA Prepares, this thing is absolutely real. And in Washington State,
what does real
I
mean
believe
to you? Does it mean that it's going to take out half your family at some point? Is that what you mean?
I hope it does. I'm working to prevent that from happening, but when I say it's real, I mean the GDP, the generally dumb public who don't get it.
I've already caught them, like the World Health Organization, UN. It's globalism versus nationalism. They tried it in our Democratic Party. It didn't work. Now they're going to another 9/11. Watch. And the only reason 9/11 happened is they had to have a body count to get a terrorism bill through Congress in the first place. Watch it. Watch your mind.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not debating that, but I am saying that I believe this is absolutely real. It was man-made, in my opinion, and it got out, whether intentionally or unintentionally. What?
Why was it man-made?
Oh, because we have some really evil things walking around on this planet.
Evil? You mean they want to take control? Control is a fantasy. What do you think's really going to happen? If this is truly like they're doing, then they're susceptible. They may not be. They may already have a virus or an immunity. I can tell you the whole thing is about racism It is about religion and freedom of religion. It is about your civil rights. And what made America different than China? It wasn't
And about the takedown of China. And about the takedown of China. The Chinese were getting way too powerful.
There you go. And if you look, you go. And you'll notice Hong Kong, the riots have stopped. Oh my goodness!
Right. If you look at all the Chinese products, and how does one stop them from taking over all manufacturing in the world, which is what they were headed toward?
Absolutely.
Well, this is a great way to do it because now if you get a package, you used to be able to just buy packages through Alibaba on the internet, and it would be shipped right from China. You want to touch one of those now, knowing that the virus can last weeks on that package or that item that's in that package? Who wants to buy anything from China? So that I'm getting emails every day from Alibaba. Want to buy some more? I'm getting them from eBay. Want to buy some more? I'm getting them from Amazon. Want to buy some more? Or you looked at this. I looked at a well pump tank. It's 20 gallons. We needed an 86 gallon. I just wanted to see who the manufacturer was, and I wanted to read some specs. I was not interested in a 20 gallon well pump tank. No interest whatsoever. But I was interested in the manufacturer. So I looked it up on eBay. Now I'm getting email after email. Want a well pump tank? Want a well pump? You looked at this. Do you still want it? And it's about everything that I look at on the internet. They know what I look at, and they want to know if I want to buy them. I'm sick of it, just as you are. But that's what's happening because the commerce is down so much.
On TV. That was what the CIA once originally said. I'm just reminding everybody. Mind control? Oh, no, we don't need mind control. We have TV. That's a direct quote from the 50s. Now, Travis talk aside, you need to take control of what is important to you and focus on that. It's not about this possibility of what may or not, and you better be fearful and watch when you go both ways. At some point, it has to, okay, I guess what I would suggest is that everybody study neuro-linguistic programming now.
Hold that thought. So we've been talking about supply chain problems that would be emerging. They are here right now in the United States, actually worldwide. And here's an interesting piece of news. 290 million children face weeks at home as coronavirus faces unparalleled school closures around the globe. So schools are being closed around the globe. Where? Japan, China, India, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, United States, and United Arab Emirates. That's what's happening right now. Schools are being closed. And now what, and so you think, what's the Fed doing about this? The Federal Reserve, the guys that, we'll just say print money out of thin air. Those guys, well, they create it out of thin air. Well, those guys are preparing for a financial apocalypse. Now, why? Because when the factories have closed, and they have closed, and if in the United States stores don't have Chi-Com inventory to sell, they don't need their employees to show up. Walmart would be an example of that. Target, also known as Target, would be an example of that. Well, if the stores don't have the inventory, they don't need the employees get laid off or fired, the stores close or go bankrupt or go out of business or all of the above. So now we have people at home can't pay their bills because half of Americans don't have money to survive an illness. They can't make it to next week without the paycheck. Those people are going to lose their homes. Now what's going to happen? Is there going to be rioting in the streets when the bankers foreclose on the houses because the company closed and the people who pay the mortgages can't pay because they don't have a job anymore and there's no job to get because the Chi-Com shut down the factories because of the corona panic? That's where we're headed now.
And you said it right.
And I think you were alluding to that, Rick.
Yeah, you said it
What's
right
that?
when you said panic. It's not about the woohoo virus.
Yeah, I've been
It's
calling
the woohoo panic. That's what it's about.
Well, I've been calling it the corona panic.
I call it the woohoo.
Now, I think people should be okay. I think people should be really concerned about what is happening. I think there are a lot of stupid people who say, you know what? Nobody's going to tell me what to do. You know, our neighborhood's infected, so I have a right to be happy. So I'm going to go out and do whatever I want to do. That's what people are doing.
And
they're infecting other people.
I saw on TikTok was the Chinese putting someone alive in a trench and burying him alive. I saw that as a video. What you're about to experience.
I guess they learned from the Nazis.
Well, it's going to go downhill.
Nazis did that.
And, you know, that's why you need to discipline your mind. It's not a fear. It's not real.
We've had people call the house, and they've said, "Hey, listen, I want to come over and visit you." My response is, "The gate's locked." That's it. The gate's locked. There's no more discussion. I'm telling them politely, "Have you lost your mind? You're not coming over here. I don't know where you've been. I don't know where the people you associate have been. I don't know about how risky the behavior in your family is. I don't know if you've been on airplanes. I don't want to get sick. I don't want anybody in our family to get sick. I am not going to allow some GP's risky behavior to take down the Finelli farm because they're too stupid to pay attention. I'm not going to let that happen."
How do you do? Could you imagine being a mailman right now and what the movie The Postman actually represented? The networking.
Being a mailman is a risky job. Being a mailman is a risky job. Going to the post office is risky. Going to the Chinese factory outlet is risky. Going to church is risky. I've got a story that I can share with you. We'll do it after the...
Is risky. I mean, get a grip, man. The whole thing is about your imagination and taking control of it as a tool.
Well, I don't think I'm imagining me, Vin Finelli. I don't think I'm imagining the risks. Let me give you an example. So there's a cruise ship called the Grand Princess, and it set sail off California. And this ship went toward Kauai Island, Hawaii. And then it hopped over to Oahu, and then Maui, and then Hawaii, the big island. And it's coming back to California, but it's held off the coast by about 400 miles because of the coronavirus. There are people sick on there. Now, this left February 21st. Now, that's not so long ago. How could anybody be so stupid as to get on a cruise ship on February 21st? And now they're annoyed that they can't get off. And they don't know when they're going to be able to get off. They're prisoners on the cruise ship, and they paid for it. And they're stupid. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. His website is Richard Allen, A-L-A-N, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, .com, richardallenmiller.com. Rick, in New York, there was this is just a couple days ago, a Manhattan lawyer. He's 50 years old. This guy is in the hospital. He's in critical condition. And he went to work before hospitalization. And he works at a small law firm, and 7 people at the law firm are told to self-isolate because the Manhattan lawyer has the coronavirus, and he's in critical condition. Now, he has a family of 5. He's got his wife and children, and they all tested positively. for the coronavirus. And this guy gets his neighbor to take him to the hospital. And now the neighbor is quarantined at his home in Westchester, New York, because he drove his neighbor, the lawyer, to the hospital. So we're talking about one guy, one lawyer, gets infected. He infects his law firm. He infects his entire family. His wife is under quarantine. His daughter tested positively, and she goes to the SAR Academy, where she's a student at an Orthodox Jewish school, which is closed now because of the infection from her father. Their son tested positively, and he goes to yeshiva. He's a student there, and the university closed classes and is disinfecting all common areas because his son went to the university. Then the New York Presbyterian Hospital has 8 employees there that are being tested because this guy, this lawyer, went there. Then the Columbia Hospital, the Presbyterian Columbia Hospital, he was transferred on March 2nd, so now they are impacted. And Young Israel, which is a synagogue in New York, Westchester, New York, they halt all services through March 8th because the family went to synagogue. In total, there are over 1,000 people who this one lawyer has come in contact with, and now all of them are supposed to be in self-quarantine. One guy. That's what he did. Now, I'm of the belief that this is absolutely, positively real. In France, the government of France has confiscated all face masks, all, and the future production of all face masks. Can you imagine that? That's real. Any comments?
Well, yeah, let's do Charles Kuralt. First hour, we do coronavirus, and the second hour, we walk away from it because, what you're doing right now is adequate. And while fear is the first enemy of man, there are other things that are also important that are going on right now. And we could talk about something that was warm and fuzzy because there are good things happening with the bad. We have an opportunity, for example. This whole thing is going to bring to light how much more important it is for you now to think about your herbal pharmacy and possibly your garden, where you or your neighbors and your local farmers market start to have an infrastructure where you're eating more local rather than from Mexico and China and, Chile.
Or your backyard. So, Rick, in that line of thinking, I'm so glad you mentioned this because that's what I had on my notes for the second hour. Chaga mushrooms consumption. Okay, you might still be able to get them on the internet. It's very, very difficult. We mentioned this over the last couple of weeks. Chaga mushrooms and growing shiitake. You said that'd be a reasonable alternative, I believe.
You could be doing just walking in the woods.
So let's do it.
Will make you feel better. And even though it's doom and gloom out there, a walk in the woods does more for stress management. The body is the finest laboratory the world has ever seen, and good luck duplicating what it can do to heal itself. With that said, what brings on, and I have a brand new book, it's going up this next week on stress management, and it's a protocol on why you get sick. What getting sick is when your body can't cope. That's what you're doing. You're in pain all the time. And neurotransmitters aside, If you didn't have pain, you wouldn't have life. What it's about is coping, keeping that balance between this and that. That's why you have the two brains, and religion and science. Now, with that said, what you need to do now is walk in balance. That was Sun Bear. And Sun Bear, walk in balance and have a relationship to what's going on around you. And if you're in perfect health, you will not get sick from this. That's it. It's written in stone. It's a common cold that has been designed to be easily spread. It doesn't die quickly. It hangs on. What you want to do is keep your body healthy. If your body's healthy, doesn't matter what's happening. Period. End of story. And that's why you have breeding grounds like grade school, because that's where they build up their immunity. And the whole concept of medicine and having to buy, wherever there is a poison, okay, this is an American Indian belief. Wherever there is a poison, toxin, the antidote grows right next to it. And there it is, in your own woods, climatized, whether you're on the coast, Midlands. That's permaculture, the idea that the habitat dictates what your medicine is. And there's chemical analogs. Golden seal on the East Coast is Oregon grapefruit on the West Coast. And they're identically hydroxy and berberine chemistries, specifically to do certain kinds of things in viral, just like Mormons did it early on. But see, before Culpeper, it was, we're talking about a thing like doctrine of signatures. You don't know what a plant's used for. You look at it, and it tells you, like red clover. What do you think red clover would be good for? Well, it's red. Well, is that related to blood? Iron. That's what we have discovered. It has iron in it. Okay. So there's many different ways you can approach your environment, and that's what you need to start doing now. Finding your way through your home and your environment. It will be your neighbor, whether you like them or not. They'll probably save your life. That's probably how it's going to go. You need to start eating more of what you produce, not someone else. And if your job doesn't afford you to do it that way because you're at work too often, you need to rethink your life. And what is important?
Yeah, that's what we've been saying for all these years. Going on 9 years, we've been saying that. You can walk away from the stress. You can get a little hobby.
Once you walk away from that part of it, you don't get sick by definition. Just like intuition is ESA. You don't make mistakes when you work from instinct. And what they're doing in neurolinguistics, they're using the way you process information in your brain. I watched a woman just visiting me saying, I can't do that. I never could do that. And I said, why are you saying it? What you're doing is reinforcing a belief system that is not necessarily true. I can, I will, the little caboose that could. Get a grip. Time to discipline your mind and realize that you're creating half of the nightmare. And I'm not going to let them do that to me.
I'm a first-generation farmer.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to let them do that to me. It's independence of reality. I create my own. And that is what religions were doing. That is what sciences are doing. And the problem is, neither have the right answer. It is a walk in balance, walking down that center line. It's called the fourth way by Gurdjieff. Tertium, organum, and then the fourth way. And there's the child and the father and the angel on the mount. And then I often have to ask the fourth way, what happened to mom? In religions. The concept of the way you choose to look at something and its importance and significance. And you have a choice. And this Wuhan virus is exhibit A of what they did with 9/11. And what happened after that in terms of security checks and your civil rights? Now, some of it's important because there were militant radical groups. All hail Eris, all hail Callisti. Chaos rules. Good luck with that. Civil rights are what you achieve by giving up your natural rights. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And that's the whole thing. What is it that you really want? And that is what you should be creating right now. You don't get there. It's a process. But right now, the media is using cell phones, 5G, all the technology is like a weapon. Why would anyone dream of weaponizing a virus like a common cold? Bill Gates. How did Gecko put it? Greed is good. And I like Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? You need to laugh your way through this because you have control. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rant. Sorry.
What you just said
Get out of the way.
What you just said, what's love got to do with it, and greed is good. That's what's wrong with our country. That is literally what's wrong.
Exactly. And Putin, everybody hates Putin, but he has done more for Mother Russia.
I like him.
Criminal. He's a criminal, just like they all are. Anybody.
Well, I like him better than. I like some of the things that he does. He is Russia first.
It's about nationalism and globalism. Now, what is it that you want?
Yeah, I'd rather have nationalism. Actually, I'd rather have states' rights. Chunks and powder of chaga mushrooms available. Same thing is available on Amazon. So, if a person were to buy chunks of chaga, and it's black on the outside and kind of a yellowish brown on the inside, what does a person do with that? How do you consume it and why?
Well, okay. What you're after are the beta-glucans and the polysaccharides in chaga. Now, beta-glucans are look-alike virus, a large virus or small bacteria. It's a sugar, but it looks like bacteria invading the system, like coronavirus. And if you take chaga and you mix it with transfer factor, those beta-glucans sit up on the cell wall looking for look-alike similar entries, and that's what chaga's beta-glucans look like. They look a little bit like the coronavirus, a little bit. The polysaccharides are longer sugar molecules that are mostly oxygen, and what they do is they deliver oxygen to the body on a cellular level. Your body cannot get enough oxygen. When you have oxygen available, that is what makes ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That is where cold fusion occurs in the physical body. ATP. You can look at it's a little vortex, and it just with oxygen, it just goes and it drills things, and that is part of your immune system and the NK killer cells that are released to go in looking for creepy stuff. Transfer factor, you get that from a lactating woman or a cow. That's what normally people use. Transfer factor is usually from cattle, and you get it in the milk, that kind of thing. And if you mix that, just a small amount of transfer factor, that will use the beta-glucans. Now, most people take it as a capsule or a tablet, and tincturing, and we're going to talk about tincturing in a minute. Capsules and tablets are 20 mesh at 20 particles per inch, or 60 mesh for a capsule. So a finer mesh at 60 mesh, that's 60 particles per inch. However, if you mill it at 400 nanometer, 10 to the minus 9, now what you have is a powder that's so fine, if supposing you wanted to go to the lung, which is a good place, or the thyroid, you'd lay on your back, take a little mistifier, spray that with wet water, little mist, and then put this in the mist and throw it on your throat and chest, and it will fall without going through digestive processes, will go directly to the organs in mind. And coronavirus is mostly thyroid, and that whole area in there, up in the mouth and throat, where the nose connects, because of mucus. And so what you're doing is taking, if you want, echinacea and gusticifolia growing everywhere in your neck of the woods. It's a wild plant, and you have 9 different species of it. They all work. The one I use is angustifolia, and I chew on the root, because what that does is increases the turgor in synovial fluids, and that sets up beating of the turgor, which is an electrostatic field. And what happens is virus can't set up there, which means you're localizing the habitat where it can set up by eating echinacea. And how much do you eat? When you can't cope, you only use it when you're not coping, like the cold is coming on and you can't stop it. That's when you take a quarter of an inch and you chew it twice a day for 2 days. And that's all that's necessary. And so I have a big jar of echinacea root that I hand to friends when they come over, if they're not having a respiratory that they're coping. And you will be experiencing respiratory, because guess what? We're having a seasonal change, and, daylight saving time goes into effect this weekend, which is going to throw your body out of whack. And so when you do that, just be mindful that you need to pay attention to seasonal changes and the amount of light you're getting, because your body changes its immune system based on light. That's what the pineal gland was about.
It will be. So, Rick, if we get down to basics and we're talking about chaga mushrooms and we have a chunk of it, what do we do with the black outside? Is that part of what we would grind up or put in I've got a poor connection with you. That's why and the delays, like you're saying. Say a little louder, and again, please. Okay, we have almost a 2-second delay at the moment. Okay, so the chaga mushrooms, if you have chunks of it, which you can buy on the internet right now, you can get on eBay, probably Amazon as well. If you have chunks of it that are the size of, let's 1 inch, a 1 inch cube, do you use the black part, the outer part, or do you just
use all the whole mushroom? Yeah, that's actually the fruiting cap, which you're getting right there, mostly. Chaga mushroom is mycelium that grows in the log itself. And what they're doing is taking a big hunk of what grows on the outer part as a conch or a chunk of mushroom. And it's woody. And you need to break it down into a powder. When you dry it, it gets down, you cut it, and you can eat approximately 1 gram a day. You eat it, 1 gram. Now, you can eat it any way you want to, but take it in as a big hunk, a little powder, whatever way you want to do that. What you should do is keep a diary of how you feel when you take this and how you felt for the day. And if what you need to do is then increase the second week to 2 grams, and the third week to 3 grams, and the fourth week to 4 grams. And when you start to have loose stool, where your number 2 is coming out liquid, what you want to do is then cut back, because it's different for each of us. I don't use chaga, I use cordyceps. There are 72 different pharmaceutical mushrooms with polysaccharides and beta-glucans. one company I'm working with up in Alberta with a university in Israel, we have chaga for sale in many different forms. We're wildcrafting it. And you can wildcraft it right in your own neighborhood. It grows on birch. Birch is the primary source of wintergreen oil. And so if you have a birch tree, usually the chaga will be growing on part of the tree that's not doing so well. It is a parasite. And so there's a symbiosis going on there that is not, it doesn't kill the tree, so it's not parasitic, but it weakens the tree, so it is a parasite. In that sense of it, and you have a choice in the way you choose to see what it's doing there. It is also important to take wintergreen oil in your diet. If you like wintergreen, put it in your salad. A little tiny bit of a birch bark, never hurt anything. If you were to grind it up and have 1 gram, 2 grams, keep a diary. That, your body will tell you what it wants. It's part of your diet, not a supplement. Now, for me, I don't need chaga. I don't need polysaccharides. I do those when my body is not coping. And actually, for the coronavirus and colds, I use echinacea rather than chaga. Chaga came from Russia. Echinacea is in North America. Doesn't grow in Germany. Germany came over in the 30s and they got the wrong one. They're growing purpurea. You want angustifolia. Purpurea, Echinacea purpurea is actually a large purple coneflower and is also called Rudbeckia rather than Echinacea. It does not have the Echinacea sides. And that's in a monograph I wrote on Echinacea showing where the Germans in the 30s got the wrong plant. And that's Dr. Shook. And Dr. Shook's a treatise on herbology and advanced treatise on herbology. And he was the primary for the Mormons until his death. I thought it was going to be transferred over to Jerry Barlow, who wrote From the Shepherd's Purse. That's an exceptional book to have in your library. From the Shepherd's Purse by Jerry Barlow. Dr. Christopher, who currently runs the Mormon thing, does, in my humble opinion, does not know goat turds from pork and beans. I'm one of the first Americans to ever write about the chemistry of herbs, making them sacraments by signing rituals to them, keeping them out of the Uniform Controlled Substance Act. I've been doing this a long time, and the one I use is echinacea. But chaga has polysaccharides and beta-glucans, and those are important for a whole bunch of other reasons that none of us are getting. When I was doing cordyceps, I never was healthier. Honestly, I had more energy. I stopped when I left John Holliday and Aloha Medicinals. I am now starting up a company of my own up in Alberta with Israel, growing psychedelic. Legally, I'm growing psychedelic, gourmet, and pharmaceutical. And the chaga grows everywhere. And what I want to do is take it from wildcrafting into forest farming. And that's what I'm doing now with different habitats. And the one I'm working with up in Alberta, just north of you, straight up. They are pretty good up there. Winnipeg has birch also. You have birch. And that you can grow it in your area, just right out of the top. And when you have a good hunk of it growing on birch, you might have 20 pounds. That's enough for 50 people. Right there, just as one little hunk.
So, Rick, can you take a chunk of dried chaga and bore a hole in a birch tree and have it grow or not?
Well, that's how they do it. That's those are called plugs, starter kits. That kind of thing. Yeah, okay, that's how you do it.
So the actual,
put a plug in there and let it go. It might take 2 years to set, but predicated on your weather and the kinds of weather you're getting. That's what will dictate. That's why you use habitat in light and temperature. And so you can have a refrigerator up in your closet, up in Gaddick is a good place to grow psychedelics and some of these pharmaceuticals. You need a walk-in cooler if you want to get it into big time for tens of thousands or 100,000 people. Walk-in cooler, grow them in ball jars.
For those who have trees on their property, let's say they have hardwoods, can they take a piece of chaga, drill maybe a quarter of an inch hole in that hardwood tree, and just push that piece of chaga in?
That's a good place to start. As simple as that, yes. Make it on the ground.
And it can be done on oak or hickory?
You want it to get some water, that kind of thing.
All right. And what about growing chaga on, let's say, 4x4 pieces of cut oak, freshly cut oak? Will that work or not?
Well, I don't understand your question again. I'm not sure.
Okay, you know what a 4x4 post looks like.
Yeah.
Well, we have a bunch of 4x4 posts that are just freshly cut. They're oak, 3 feet long, let's say.
Yeah.
Can we drill holes in there?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You do all kinds of mushrooms on that, and it'll probably have several different things. And you rotate the log 4 times, 5 times, different sets, and it'll set up, and you have a crop. You take your crop off, and then you rotate your log again. By the time you've done it for 4 or 5 years, you throw the log away and start another one, just like you do farming. By the way, you can do the same thing with crystals and grow your solar panels as a crop, like you would carrots or mushrooms, as another way of thinking. Did you know that?
So if we have some shade, I've never grown silicon crystals.
Sure you have. You were a kid when you did it. They were little tiny
you're talking about
and stuff like that, where you grew crystal things. They give you a little starter kit in the back end of a comic book.
Yes.
Well, yes, you did.
Yeah, you're talking about like salt crystals.
There it is.
Salt crystals and
like
crystals. Yes,
you can grow solar panels and make them on site rather than having to buy some from some weird country on Mars.
Like communist China, right?
Yeah.
So let's grow some shiitake, Rick, for our class. Let's grow some shiitake right now.
Yeah, shiitake is simple.
Okay, how do we do it?
Well, I'm going to write an ebook and have it up in 2 weeks on my website. Right now, the one I'm finishing is on stress management. Yes, the non-local mind comes out. Yes, the magical and ritual use of metaphor comes out this year. Yes, probably a bunch of PDFs on certain crops that I think are important for herbal pharmacy. Yes. I'm going to be writing a lot of little monographs and things on how to do it, things like Matt Stein and I were doing. I'm going to continue that. My primary expertise lies in farming and gardening, and I'm going to do that for children. What I'm building, one of the things I'm building is a mobile water testing laboratory. It tests water, and it's mobile in a bus, run by children, 3rd graders driving into an elementary school and showing 1st graders how to test the purity of. And that 1st grader goes home and shows his parent how they did it.
Rick, would you get on a cruise ship today if you were offered a free pass?
I'd love to do that, man. I need a break. Getting out in the woods. That's what I'm doing now. I'm just doing it where I go out into the universe by myself in a quiet part of the world that nobody's walked because it's pristine and beaches, that kind of thing. No, I don't think I would love to go now. It's probably not appropriate any more than it would be to go down to Mexico with a bunch of money. Bandits. Travel today has a bunch of narco. It's crazy out there. And yes, I love to travel. That was one of the things I'd love to do is sing for my dinner where I come in and get to visit other parts of the world and see how you live. That was one of my most favorite things coming to Springfield. I really liked doing that, meeting Storm and Norman Cantwell, becoming friends with you and others. Networking.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that was those were great days when we had our little get-togethers.
I'll cherish them.
Uh-huh.
Meeting all the weird people. And all them values. Grace Thorne, some of the others. She's working now as a sub. She's got almost full time.
Wow, what a treat that those students have, having her as their teacher. That's pretty neat. Rick, when she was on the radio with us in her class, not one other teacher, not one parent, and not one superintendent nor principal listened from her school district. So French President Macron ordered the seizure of all stocks and future production of medical face masks in the face of the growing threat from the coronavirus. So that's what France is doing. So the government is saying that they know best, and they're going to take masks, all of them. All the masks are going to the French government for them to decide what to do with them. That's the kind of thing that could spread like wildfire across the world. Other governments can do the same thing, and maybe they will. And then, that's the beginning of the loss of freedoms. Then you may be locked in your home or apartment, as what's happening in China. And then your neighbors may burn down your house, which is what had been happening in China. Pretty serious stuff. Any comments, Rick?
I'll quote Ben Franklin. When you give up your civil rights for safety and protection, you lose both.
Yeah, and at the same time, we have the GDP walking around as if this coronavirus threat is meaningless. And they're going to do whatever they want to do because it's their right to be happy, regardless of whether they infect others or not. That's what's happening in New York State right now. People, I'm just going to live my life. I'm not going to let this corona panic impact me. And here's the thing. Regardless of whether you become infected or not, you will be impacted by the corona panic and the supply chain shutdown. You will. For example, we can't buy wheels for our trailer. They're not available. We can't buy drain plugs for the kind that we want for our vehicles. They're not available. And other parts are not going to be available. Imagine what will happen when a router or a Netflix server goes down because a tantalum capacitor blows. It just, boom, pops. It fails. And that server goes down or that router goes down, and we can't get tantalum capacitors to repair them. As a matter of fact, even if you had the capacitors, would you be able to buy the solder to unsolder the capacitor and replace it? Would you be able to? Solder is something that people don't use very much anymore, right? Rick, have you heard of anybody using a soldering iron other than me? And
me, I used one yesterday.
Huh?
Yeah.
We use one all the time.
Yeah.
I felt years ago when Barry Soetoro was shutting down the lead mines in the United States, I thought, you know what? I better get some solder. So I bought 3 pounds of radio solder. Very, very fine wire solder. Very fine wire. Like 20 thousandths of an inch fine. That's pretty fine. And we use it all the time for connections on automobiles and, when they break. And so what is it? It's old stock.
Speaker systems, whatever.
Old stock.
Your computer.
Yeah, but the solder I bought was at least made 30 years ago. At least 30 years ago. I mean, that was common maybe 40 years ago, People used to have hobbies that included soldering connections, soldering components. I haven't heard of anybody saying, hey, I built this radio, I built this desulfate, or I built this whatever. I haven't heard anybody say that. Because they don't. They don't know how. They don't have interest. As a matter of fact, I was talking with one of our instructors the last couple of days, and we were talking about Home Depot. They're having classes on how to use a drill. That's how you use a drill. Can you, and a tape measure. Can you imagine? How does this happen that Home Depot has to teach a class on how to use a drill?
Well, that's because the high schools no longer do it. They used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. We used to watch our seniors in our family use a drill. Oh, that's how I used a drill. As a matter of fact, I bought my first drill when I was about 10 years old, and it was $8.88, and it was a Stanley brand corded electric drill, quarter-inch electric drill. Yeah, quarter-inch. No, maybe it's 3/8. But anyway, yeah, I bought my own when I was very, very young because I thought that was something that was worth having. I saved a long time for that. A lot of birthdays and a lot of helping around the house and a lot of 10, 15, and 25-cent allowances for helping around the house. What about that? Allowances. Remember allowances when parents used to give their children allowances for helping out around the house? Remember that?
Yeah.
10 or 15 cents, maybe a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd save it up and buy a...
Son, I bought you a brand new car.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, so let's grow some mushrooms, class. Hey, thank you. Thank you. That's Dr. Richard Allen Miller. RichardAlanMiller.com. And we'll be back with Rick next Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about ham radio with Gordon West, Joanne, and then I'll be talking about my book.